Hi, my name is Carmen. In my 20 years of experience as a nurse, I've learned how important it is to use personal protective equipment, we call it PPE, whenever the situation calls for it. When I started my nursing career, it wasn't uncommon for a nurse to start an IV or do a blood draw without wearing gloves. A nurse might have neglected to wear the gloves because it was easier to feel the vein and manipulate the tools with bare hands. However, these days, I would never perform one of those tasks without wearing gloves. I would never want to risk transmitting an infection from one patient to another. While it might seem obvious that PPE is necessary when handling blood, there are other situations when it might seem less necessary to use PPE. I remember a situation when I did not use PPE because I was being a little lazy and I didn't think it would matter. I was at the end of my shift and I had to clear the IV of a patient who was in an isolation room. I didn't want to go to the trouble of putting on my PPE just to go into the patient's room. I remember thinking to myself, I'm not going to get what this patient has and I won't be going into another patient's room after this. I'll just quickly slip into the room and take care of this one task. After coming out of the room, I looked up the patient's viral panel in order to pass on the information to the next shift. The respiratory panel results indicated that the patient had a severe case of a highly contagious respiratory virus. I just remember gasping and saying to myself, I need to be more careful. From now on, I'll wear the required PPE 100% of the time. Now I always wear my PPE when the situation calls for it. I never neglect putting it on just because it's inconvenient or because I think it might not matter whether I wear it or not.
Carmen's story shows how a hasty decision to perform a healthcare task without wearing the proper PPE can pose serious risks to the healthcare worker and his or her coworkers and patients. Now that you've seen the importance of PPE, you will learn the definition and purpose of PPE, as well as how employers establish PPE policies.